What's up guys, Tommy Bowyer here from Movie Rewind. I'm joined by MLC and today we'll be reviewing Doctor Who specials. There will be spoilers in this review, so without further ado, let's get into it. The Doctor Who specials aired from the 25th of December 2008 and concluded after 5 specials on the 1st of January 2000. They starred David Tennant as the 10th incarnation of the Doctor and various guest stars. And the basic premise of these specials was the fact that due to a new production team taking over for Series 5 under Stephen Moffat, these specials gave that new production team the opportunity to get everything together for a brand new series. So these specials kind of act as a bridge between Series 4 and Series 5. And of course, they are David Tennant's last specials in the role of the 10th Doctor. Now, this is a special review because obviously I'm joined by MLC. How are you?
I am good. I'm glad you brought me on for the specials because of course I'm very special needs. No.
Whoa. Whoa, okay. We're off to a good start.
Yes.
PC as usual. PC as usual. That is what we like.
Yes.
Now, of course, MLC, firstly, these specials, do you remember them when you were growing up?
Of course.
They have an impression?
They were an event, an occasion. A Doctor Who special in my family was a family occasion. It was a family event. We always used to sit around the TV and watch all the TVs together. I remember Doctor Who specials were a night where we would celebrate. We would get, my dad would get burgers and chips in and like all snacks and like for the event and yeah. It mainly the Christmas specials were more of the event. I know some of the ones that we're going to discuss later, the New Year's and Christmas specials were more of an event. Some of them were Easter specials. But yeah, definitely the Doctor Who Christmas special, especially at Christmas time for me it was a big staple. It was a big event in the household. So yeah, very fond memories of sitting around and watching all these specials when they first aired on TV. And yeah, I really enjoyed them.
Yeah, same here. I remember watching these. My family were not as dedicated to Doctor Who as I was, so I was watching them on my own, unfortunately. Yes, I know. Very sad. Very sad. But anyway, I remember all of these. Obviously, late in 2008 was when the announcement was made live by David Tennant that he would be departing the role of the 10th Doctor. And I remember it was a massive thing because obviously... MLC, you and me grew up with Tennant in the role. Like he had become
so sad.
Yeah, he had become in my eyes irreplaceable. Like I couldn't see anyone else playing him.
Yeah.
That is how much of an impact he had had. Was that the same with you?
Oh yeah, like seeing anyone else but the Doctor was like, ah. I've always been a bit like that. If when you get used to something, you see something change or something different, it's like no, that's not meant to be like that. I always get a bit, but especially with Doctor Who, because when you come to love and know a character in a certain way, and then the prospect of this thing is not going to last forever, and deep down you want it to last forever, but you just know it's not going to. You're like but just give me a few more years, please.
Yeah, very same here. So anyway, we're going to get into these specials. So we've done what I normally do. We're going to go through episode by episode, and we're going to both comment on them and kind of have a quick discussion about what impression these episodes had and whether they were any good or not. Because obviously, nostalgia is a powerful thing, and me and MLC will really have to fight back nostalgia with these episodes because we were, 8 to 10 when these aired. So of course... they were a massive deal. They were a massive deal at the time. So we're going to try and not be influenced by nostalgia. But who knows? We might not be. So anyway, the first special is, of course, The Next Doctor, which aired on Christmas Day 2008. Doctor Who's regular Christmas special. Now, I don't know about you, MLC, but I just remember this special was like, is this... guy going to be the next Doctor?
Yeah,
it was like,
if I was to look at the episode now, I'll probably think no, because Because me being what I know now, I'd say that would be the real Doctor because they want to make some big grand announcement out of it before. So I already know who the actor is who's going to play the next Doctor. But when I first watched it, I'm like, new Doctor? Because I know there was reports of there being a new Doctor at some point, but I'm like, what already? And then when you see Jack Morrissey's character come on stage, and and in the marketing they said he's going to be the new Doctor and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not the Doctor. David Tennant's the Doctor.
Yeah.
So what? Yeah, no, it's like they can't be replacing him with this guy, surely. And that was my reaction. It was like, no.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Of course, David Morrissey is one of these actors who at the time was heavily considered to be a potential candidate for the next Doctor.
Yeah.
So having him in this episode, and of course the episode entitled The Next Doctor, kind of teases that the next Doctor is going to be introduced. So going into this episode in a modern frame of mind, you just try and look at it as an episode of Doctor Who and whether they actually did a good job. And in my opinion, the standout from this episode was actually David Morrissey as the Doctor. We later learn he's actually called Jackson Lake.
Yeah.
But he, for me, has such a presence on screen.
Yeah.
He really does stand out. He gave it his all. Would you say?
He gave a really
it his
good
all.
performance.
And obviously this special sees the return of the Cybermen. We get the Cybermen back. Now, MLC, what's your opinion of the Cybermen's plan in this episode? Like, is it actually, does it stand out for you as a good Cybermen story?
It's not the most, if I'm being honest, it's probably not the most standout in terms of all the Cybermen plots, in my opinion. Like, when I think of the Cybermen like this, I'm going to be honest, this episode doesn't really come to mind. I mean, yes, I suppose it was a cool little side plot for Cybermen of the time period they were in, and seeing, like, I don't know, it's pretty interesting, like, you know, how they made like the big like steampunk Cyberman in the end. It was a somewhat familiar but also a bit of a different take on what we've seen from the Cybermen before. So yeah, we see the classic Cybermen, but I don't know, it's sort of the themes they're going with for the Cybermen is very different. So yeah, like I did enjoy it, but in terms of like it being a standout purely Cyberman story, it wasn't something that stood out to me as, you know, a big win for the Cybermen. But in terms of like its own separate thing, I don't know, it felt a bit disconnected from the lore and the storyline we've come to expect from the Cybermen and the David Tennant franchise. But I thought overall it was still quite a good story.
Yeah, for me, I'm one of these things. I always think the ending where you have the massive Cybermen, it just screams Power Rangers to me.
Oh, yeah.
It just, I don't know. There's something about it. I've never been a fan of the massive robot Cyberman trampling across Victorian London. I don't know why. It's just never been something that I would say really stands out. Saying that, this of course is a Christmas special which offers something different in the sense it's set in the past. We'd never had a Christmas special which had been set in the past before, and I think like most Doctor Who things, they make the most of the past setting. Like, it looks good, don't you think? It looks very realistic.
It's very, I quite like the setting and like the design of the characters and everything. Like when you see like the cyber shades come in and stuff, like the design of them is quite eerie when you think about it.
Yeah,
so, yeah,
they look like gorillas almost, don't they? Like tiny gorillas.
I think like the set design and the production that went into this episode was pretty well done.
No, I would say I'd say the highlight of this episode, as I've said, David Morrissey's character Jackson Lake. You actually learned that he's suffering a form of PTSD because his wife is killed by the Cybermen and his son is taken away. And in my opinion, I've always felt that saved it from kind of being a cop-out in the sense of because they had to explain why this guy was not the next Doctor somehow. Do you think how they dealt with that works? It doesn't feel less like, if you watch it again knowing what you know now, does it feel like, oh well, it's just like a load of speculation for no reason?
No, because I think that was just part of the marketing hype behind the special of, trying to get people intrigued to watch the special of, oh, is this actually the next Doctor or is it not? Tune in to find out. But yeah, I don't know. I guess when you go into it, I don't know. I guess that can be said for many episodes and movies in general. If you already know the big twist at the end of and the outcome of a character, is it going to be as impactful when you rewatch it? Of course, discovering the first discovery of how this character's got to where he's got to and why he's got to a certain way. Of course, when you rewatch it, it doesn't have that same impactful moment. But I still think it's still an episode I can rewatch and enjoy still.
Yeah, well, rounding off on the next Doctor, I'd say it's a good Christmassy episode. It's in my opinion, it's kind of the standard Christmas episode. It's a feel good story. There's not that many stakes because, of course, it's Christmas. Everyone's wants to relax at Christmas. They don't always want high stakes drama. And of course, in terms of the next Doctor speculation, it got over 13 million viewers watching it. So it definitely did pull viewers in to see what was going on.
Oh yeah, the spectacle of Big Simon, and will usually pull a lot of people in. But I think the biggest driving force was the fact is, are we getting another Doctor already? I think that question was what drew the most people in to find out what exactly who the hell this guy is.
Now, of course, the next special was, of course, released around about Easter. It was released on the 11th of April 2009. Many people call this, though, the Easter special because it was marketed that way. And that is, of course, Planet of the Dead. MLC, your initial thoughts. What's your initial opinion of Planet of the Dead?
I will be honest, Planet of the Dead out of all the Doctor Who specials is the least memorable one for me, and was probably the one I enjoyed the least out of all of the specials out there. Though I'm not saying that's not to say it was bad, but I don't know. It definitely is probably, in my opinion, the weakest entry out of all the specials, in my opinion. Though that's not to say it was bad. I just feel it's the least memorable out of all the specials. Though it was pretty interesting to watch. I remember fondly watching this. Of the London bus going on a big adventure into a weird, arid alien planet, and seeing and I thought it was an interesting concept of this bus being transported into a different realm and trying to figure out just what the fuck's going on. Yeah, I think my personal opinion, it's the weakest of the specials, but it was an interesting concept.
No, see, I'm a bit. I have a soft spot for this special. I don't know why. I have a soft spot for it. We have, of course, Michelle Ryan in this as Lady Christina, who is one of the who joins the 10th Doctor. And she's billed as kind of a thief, basically. She's an expert jewelry thief. She steals some stuff and then ends up on this alien planet while being chased by police. And I've always thought that her and the 10th Doctor, I don't know why, but I love that flirtatious relationship.
Oh yeah, there's a very good dynamic between them.
Yeah. The 10th Doctor, in my opinion, is good at flirtatious relationships. It's kind of an ongoing thing. And I just think this one really worked. I could definitely have seen this companion being like a proper full-time companion. I really could have. I think they had a lot of potential there with her. I like the idea of this episode, of how there's an interesting mystery set up about how they got onto this planet and how they're going to get back. And in terms of the creatures they introduced, the only problem I have is, of course, we're talking, late 2000s CGI, BBC budget. So, obviously the budget's not that fantastic. But in terms of how they solve this crisis, of course, they find something and are able to basically do some work on the bus to make it fly.
Yeah.
Is that, in your opinion, too unbelievable, or do you just kind of accept it as it is what it is kind of thing?
In a way, yeah, I thought, it it did get a bit, can I believe this? Is this getting a bit silly for? It's probably, and I think like it's probably out of all the specials, it's probably like the resolution and how they like escape is probably the cheesiest and sort of out of all of them. But I don't know. I guess in terms of the whole spirit of Doctor Who, it's probably the cheesiest sort of resolution type thing they've done for most of the Doctor Who era. There wasn't. I'm gonna be honest. There wasn't as much cheese in terms of the visuals in the David Tennant era compared to, I think, the Matt Smith era. But I think this is probably like the start of of cheesy CGI to come in Doctor Who. But yeah, I found it entertaining. And I'm not gonna say scoff at it, but at the same time, I'm not gonna say. Yeah, I don't know. It's a bit of a weird one in my opinion. Planet of the Dead.
I'd if I had to summarize it in just a brief sentence, I'd say it's a very light-hearted episode.
Yeah.
It sees the 10th Doctor doing what the 10th Doctor does. He's charming. He's got a good companion there. They have a very flirtatious relationship. Works. But it's not standout. Like if you lined it up top 10 Tennant episodes, this wouldn't be anywhere near that list. I feel like it's the special most people overlook.
Yeah.
I think, and we're going to get on to the next one because the next one is in such high regard. People kind of forget this one exists.
Oh yeah.
But of course, actually saying that, because of course in this special at the end, they meet someone who can kind of hear the dead and kind of tell the future a bit, and that's when this woman turns around and says to the Doctor, your time's ending, and he is returning. And of course, MLC at the time watching that, obviously we knew that the 10th Doctor would be regenerating, but did that kind of send chills down you? Like, oh my god, they're starting to set this up.
I don't think when I first watched it that really clicked in my mind. For one, it's of the setup and who is he that's returning. Everything. It didn't quite. I'm gonna be honest. When I was young, it didn't quite click in my mind as to what they were setting up at the time. If I'm being honest, but rewatching that, you're like, you rewatching like okay, that's what they were setting up to begin with. That's what that meant after. Yeah.
Right.
But at the time, it didn't click in my mind that they were setting up and foreshadowing what was to come.
Okay. Well, that's maybe my mind's developed than yours.
Oh, more developed. I was 8 years old. Fuck off.
Well, so was I, but somehow I managed to keep up. So who knows? Anyway, moving on as such to the next one, and of course the next one has quite a strong reputation in the Doctor Who community, and that is of course The Waters of Mars, released on the 15th of November 2009. Now MLC, I'm sure you're dying to talk about this one. So, initial opinion of this special?
I thought it was quite a good episode. Very quite freaky though. Ugh. A lot of The Waters of Mars does send shivers down your spine in a way. Yeah, just. It's regarded as a very, very good episode, and yeah. When I watched it when I was young, I was probably quite freaked out by it. By the way, just the sign of water and everything, and what it does to you. I remember after I watched this episode being afraid to touch water.
No, that's same here. The great thing about Doctor Who is they can make simple things evil, and they did it. This is probably just such a great example of it. This did used to scare me. It's one of those Doctor Who episodes when every character in it is actually established fairly well. You actually feel when some of these characters get infected, you actually feel for them. Where sometimes it can just feel like they're collateral damage, but in this you actually felt you wanted these people to be okay. And I really liked the idea of the Doctor knowing that this was like these people's deaths on Mars was a fixed point in time. He couldn't actually change it, and I love that throughout this episode, he's kind of continually wrestling with his own conscience. He's like, I need to leave here. What happens here happens. I have to go. And I think that was just great. Graham Harper is the director in this. He was a long-serving actor, and he does a great job with creating tension in this. The water creatures, you're scared when they're running after you. You're kind of on the edge. I was on the edge of my seat even now, kind of like, oh my God, don't let the water touch you, because it could just take one drop. And I thought that was a great concept, because you didn't know. You really didn't know. Now, obviously, the Doctor goes a bit crazy by the end of this.
Yeah.
He starts thinking he's a bit above reality and time itself. So, MLC...
Time Lord Victorious.
So, MLC, what did you think of the 10th Doctor? Did you like him at the end of this episode?
No, it was quite striking of where it left him, if I'm being honest, of how, I don't know, it showed a much more darker, a bit more of a, how to describe, more of a renegade side to the Doctor, I guess.
He kind of becomes the master in some small ways.
And I don't know, it sort of like strikes me that he was, I don't know, with everything that's happened in his life and everything that's led him to this point, it sort of made him get fueled with this rage and this, and he felt like he was almost unstoppable. And there was in a way, an arrogance to the Doctor of how he got to the point where he thought he was unstoppable, and that the laws of time were to his command and everything, and it was very striking of. And this is it's quite out the line for the Doctor, because the Doctor's always meant to be a very compassionate, kind and caring character, and it's got to this point where it's pushed him to this point where you see the dark side of him finally come out, and it can be quite striking because of what we've come to know the Doctor as. But I don't know, it's quite good character development, I guess, in a way, because it's not like suddenly they're flipping a switch and this Doctor has this darkness in him. That I think it was more of the Doctor finally allowing this darkness to manifest him, because the Doctor's been through a lot, and that he's always kept up this positive attitude, and this can be said in just general human behavior in general. Of a lot of people who have a lot of darkness in them, they try not to show it. They try always carry on as best they can, but then it gets to a point where suddenly that darkness can't be suppressed anymore, and it can come out.
No, I agree with you. Portrays the companion in this special. She portrays a captain who's in charge of this mission, the first mission to Mars, and she learns that her granddaughter, because of her death, will eventually go out into the stars, and it's like a massive opening for the human race. So when she is saved by the Doctor, I love the scenes between them where she's just like, you cannot do this. This is wrong. No one should have that much power. And when she goes into her house, I remember that scene to this day, when she goes into her house and kills herself to correct the timeline. You just see Tennant's acting during that scene was amazing. Just like the realization that he has gone too far now.
And that, going too far with power has consequences. And thinking you're invincible, yes, you may be able to do what you want. You may have that power. Don't worry, I'm not gonna, do a Spider-Man. Great power comes great responsibility. Having that moment.
No, you can do that. That's fine. You can do that.
But it is sort of that moment, isn't it? Of hang on, yes, you may be able to do what you want. You may be able to change time. You may be able to be this powerful figure. But when you get reckless, it's not you who's going to come off worse off. It's the people around you, and the actions of the people around you, that your actions and the consequences of those actions. Yes, you may be able to carry on this big powerful fella going around doing what you want, but when you realise just the effect that having reckless power does without responsibility and honing it in, that's tough. Just realising. Just realising the consequences and gravity of the power and responsibility you hold.
No, Yeah, I think Final Force it's an exceptional episode in terms of tension building. The design of the creatures, of course, is amazing. The final scenes though really do raise it from a great episode into an excellent episode
Yeah.
because
Oh,
we his
well, that's my
camera's
camera.
gone.
It's gone. Rip.
You're still there though, aren't
I'm
you?
still
You're
there.
still
Yeah,
there.
my camera.
Oh, that's good. That is jolly good then. It's of course an episode. I would say that one of the best Doctor Who episodes I've ever seen in terms of how much it challenges the Doctor and has you really questioning, you know, Doctor Who. I know that sounds cheesy, but it's like, who is this person?
Yeah.
You know, do we actually know who they are? So anyway, of course, we moving on as such to, of course, at the time, what I thought was a really strong episode. Looking back, it's one of those episodes I find problems with it each time I watch it, and that's of course the End of Time Part 1. Now this is of course was released on the 25th December 2009, so it's the Christmas episode. Now MLC, the first time you saw the End of Time Part 1, I bet you had quite big expectations for it at the time.
Oh, very, very big expectations, to be honest. This was meant to be the finale to David Tennant, and of course, that going into it, there was quite a lot of emotional depth and worry already because it was the last time we were meant to be seeing the Doctor, and I, you know, being 10-year-old me at the time.
Well, you
Well,
would
actually, no, I
have
would have
been
been
9 at the time. You would have been 9
yeah.
at the time. You don't even.
And you know, seeing that this is meant to be the grand finale, and you know, the rematch of the Doctor and the Master. There was a lot riding on it for me, of what this could mean. Yeah, I was so hyped for the episode. You know, the grand finale. You know, the ultimate finale and showdown between the Doctor and the Master. I was like, oh, holy shit, here we go.
Yeah, I agree with you there. John Sim's great as the Master.
Yeah, his portrayal as the
yeah.
Master is nothing short of brilliant.
Yeah, and of course we have Bernard Cribbins in this, who portrays Wilfred father. I always thought his performance was good as well. I think he's a really good actor, and
Yeah.
Especially in some of the more emotional scenes, like when he has to cry and things like that. My God, some of those scenes are hard to sit through. He can really make you feel emotional just by how he acts. So I think that's always really stood out in my mind. My main problem with this episode, and I don't know whether it is with you, I feel like this episode is a lot of build-up and foreshadowing.
Oh yeah, no doubt. It is like the setup and the build-up, especially I guess towards the later end of the episode of how you see this episode going. You know, how they're going to foreshadow the return of the Time Lords and everything. I don't know. I guess I saw a lot of issues of, you know, basically foreshadowing, saying this is going to happen, and I don't know. I guess some of those elements felt a bit too cheap and cheesy for me, but you know, overall, I did very much enjoy this episode. I thought the Return of the Master was quite well done, and yeah, the performance of John Sim and his and how it, I don't know, his master seemed very, I don't know what's the word, vicious in a way.
Yeah, just not only insane, like feral almost. Yeah. Like he was just
his
completely
portrayal
out
of the
of
Master
control.
at first sent shivers down my spine. Of course, later on we'll get to the later characterization of the Master and what becomes of him. But yeah, he just seemed hell bent on just chaos and just getting his own way.
And of course, there's two big cliffhangers to this episode. Of course, we have the Master going into this reactor, and every single human being becomes the Master.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know about you. Maybe I've always thought, why is this so I don't know why. I've just never found it that amazing, if that makes sense. You know, I don't know why. I don't feel like this is a great threat. Now everyone's the Master. I don't know. What's your opinion on that? I mean, I might be. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. What did you think about this?
I don't know. In terms of like the payoff of that actually happening, I guess yeah. I'm not too sure I feel about it myself either. Though I thought it was just a prime example of the master, just having that insanity to him, like him making everyone the masters. It struck me as, okay, this guy's got to the point where he just doesn't give a shit. And he's got to the point where he's so unhinged, he doesn't care. He's like, he just wants to cause chaos in his own mind and vision, and that he doesn't really have an end goal. He just wants to cause chaos as a master, trying to get in that some revenge in any way. But he didn't have. But this version of the master was so unhinged, so feral, and like he didn't really have a plan. He just wanted to cause and wreak chaos without having an actual plan in place to begin with.
No, okay, yeah, I've never thought of it like that, but yeah, yeah.
Sort of a bit like
Anyway,
he was sort of a bit like reminded me a bit like the Joker in a way, but in terms of having no plan at all, he just wanted to do anything to cause chaos and mischief.
yeah, I suppose when you look at it like that, yeah, I can see where you're coming from. Can see. Of course, we have then, of course, the final big cliffhanger is, of course, when we learn that this mysterious narrator who has been kind of telling this story is actually a Time Lord.
Yeah.
And it's like, today is the day that the Time Lords return. Now, MLC, what was, when you first saw this, or even when you see it now, does it send shivers down your spine, just like this moment?
In a way, yeah, it definitely does, yeah. I'll be honest, when I first was, hyped up for this episode, I thought it was just going to be purely a show off between the Doctor and the Master and having their final show off together. But yeah, I'll be honest, I didn't see that being the grand twist of, the Time Lords coming back from, and finding a way to escape the pocket dimension and time frame they were trapped in. Like the way we all had it was like, that's it. The Time Lords are done, but we didn't expect them to be able to find a way to come from the time they were basically the last moments they were trapped in. And I guess, I don't know, there's a lot of depth you can see because the fate of the Time Lords. So I guess you can sort of see their desperation to do anything to try and stay alive, given that they know what's coming, basically.
Yeah. No, and of course, that leads on into the End of Time Part 2, of course, David Tennant's final episode in the role of the 10th Doctor. And you were saying about the Time Lords. Obviously, before this, the Time Lords are really built up as this kind of godlike race, and the Doctor never really says any criticism about them. But in this episode, we learn that, especially near the end of the Time War, they were desperate to survive, and they were willing to do anything in order to survive. Which, I don't know about you, I always thought that was really great development to kind of show that actually they weren't these whiter than white gods. They were flawed just like everyone else.
Yeah.
And of course, I have to say, Timothy Dalton, a former James Bond actor, of course, portrays Rassilon, one of the leading Time Lords. I think he did an impeccable job and really did kind of bring the Time Lords to life as that kind of leading figure.
Oh yeah, yeah. I thought his performance was really strong in this. Like the depth of his performance and like his emotion, just his voice alone was enough to send chills down your spine. Really, it's big, powerful. Like just how he spoke and everything. This guy meant business. This guy didn't want to fuck around. Like you could tell. This guy's powerful.
And obviously, throughout this episode, the majority of his time with those two work really well together, I would say. I always remember a scene when they're on the observation deck in space. They seem to be on their own, and Wilf is just like to the Doctor, take this gun. You got to take up arms. And he's like, I don't want you to die. And he's crying as he says it, and that always brings a tear to my eye, because I think it was at that point it really kind of got into my head. Tennant was leaving. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
like, it was coming. That's when the realization hit. That's when you knew it was over.
Yeah, it's like, we're actually doing it. Like, holy shit, no, please, no.
And obviously, how this episode ends, we see the Doctor and the Master face off. The Time Lords are back. They intend to bring Gallifrey back, as well as everything else. But by the end of this, let's face it, the Time Lords have gone absolutely insane.
Yeah.
They say they're going to wipe out time itself, and they'll just become bodiless entities, higher than more. And it's just they've gone absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
The Doctor has to make a choice. Now, what do you think of the scene when the Doctor has the gun and he's kind of switching back and forth between the Time Lords and the Master? Does that scene build tension really well?
Yeah. it did build a lot. It showed a lot of inner conflict within the Doctor, and you felt really bad for him that he's got to this point where he has to make such a tough and difficult choice like that, and it can just really show just how much he's been pushed. But he's not to the point where he's completely gone, but to the point where he's trying to fight on to any ounce of the Doctor that we know and love. And the fact that he's faced with this tough choice of, and the fact that he's been pushed to this choice where he feels like the only way out of this is to do the one thing that he would never do, and that is, shoot someone with a gun.
Yeah.
We know the Doctor's stance on weapons to begin with anyway, but the fact that he's got to this point of desperation where this is the only solution he's been left with, like, you really do feel for him.
And do you think, like, the eventual payoff when he finds a way to kind of take the Time Lords out, and the Master, of course, actually protects the Doctor and takes on Russell on himself?
Yeah, I do like that. The time the Master decided to finally somewhat redeem himself, I thought that was quite a good turnaround for the character, and I thought, that was really well done. I really enjoyed how the Master then suddenly bound together with the Doctor in this last ditch attempt of them to finally have some recollection with each other in this way.
No, I agree with you there. And of course, after this, we then discover that the Doctor appears to have been saved. But then we get the dreaded prophecy: he will knock 4 times, and we see Wilf knock 4 times. Now, that moment, having rewatched it recently, when he hears those 4 knocks, you can feel Tennant's acting. Just all hope goes out. It just goes out the window. It's such a tragic way for the 10th Doctor to go. What did you think about that? Did you think it was done really well?
Yeah, I loved how, because around that whole thing there was quite a lot of foreshadowing and build up in previous specials and episodes prior to that whole story thread. So I don't know, there are a lot, I guess for a lot of people, didn't really sink in. I guess it was just a load of build up to something that with no payoff, but then when suddenly, damn, that payoff is actually real, it's there, it's about to happen, you're like, your heart sinks and you're like, oh shit. And you just can't help but, especially when the first time you see that, you can't help but just feel so gutted for the Doctor and feel your heart sinks so much for him. Yeah.
And obviously, this is a broader concept. Davies is really good as having phrases. Like in series 1, it was Bad Wolf. Series 2, Torchwood. He's good at having phrases echo throughout a story arc.
Oh yeah.
And then have a massive payoff. And this was one of those times where the payoff just felt really natural. And I don't know about you, but the Doctor's death, it always strikes me. He didn't lose it. He didn't die in war. He didn't die because an enemy killed him or anything. He died saving a human.
Yeah.
Just an average human. As Wilf says, you're a god to me. And he sacrificed himself just so one human could live.
Yeah.
Do you think that really sums up the 10th Doctor as kind of a hero, like the Doctor?
Oh yeah, like the fact that people saw him as someone so great and superior, but when you strip down to the character of the 10th Doctor, he saw himself at the end of the day as just a regular person who could form the same amount of emotional connections with anyone and just treat anyone with the same amount of respect that he would see everyone. He didn't see himself as, because he's this Time Lord, he therefore is superior to everyone and everyone's below him. He saw himself pretty much as an equal to his companions and people that he was with. And the fact,
Now,
despite being someone who holds so much power, so much responsibility, when it comes down to it, he has the same humanity as anyone else.
Now, of course, we're coming to the end of this now, but of course we have to talk about. And I remember watching the end in this episode, and I have no shame. I was in tears throughout the last 10 minutes of this episode. It still brings a tear to my eye now, and I am going to make a quick disclaimer. I think we should discuss the final companion he meets in its own little section. So we'll talk about. I'll ask your opinion on the others first. But what do you think about him going back to what he says to get his reward, to see all of his former companions and how they're coping? What do you think of those scenes? Do you think it just rounds it off in such a beautiful way?
It does. It was quite emotional scene. Especially probably the bit that got me most when he saw Rose and like Rose didn't recognize him at all in that time period. But just, I don't know, it's just more of just seeing the look on the Doctor's face just said it all. Like, he didn't need to say much. It was just David Tennant's like performance and just the look he could give off on his face was just that was something else. He just, I don't know, it's just being able to see once more the people he loves and cares for, even if they don't recognize him back in that period. Just knowing that they're there was just, and the look on the face was enough for the Doctor, and that was like,
I think it's relatable in the sense, I think when we all die, we'd love to kind of go and see all of our friends and family, what they're doing, are they succeeding?
Yeah.
Much like yourself, the scene that got me was Rose, obviously. And I think it just shows how much the 10th Doctor cared for Rose, that he actually went back in time. He knew the risk, but he actually went back in time just to see her one more time. And I always think it's not only Tennant saying goodbye in that scene, but when he asks what year is it, and Rose says, it's 2000, and the Doctor's like, you're going to have a really good year.
Yeah.
I always feel like that's Russell T Davies also saying goodbye. Like, rounding off the Davies era in many ways. I don't know about you. I've just always thought that weren't only Tennant saying goodbye to it. That was Davies' goodbye as well to a franchise which he loved.
It was a way of, saying what his thoughts of his time with Doctor Who was. You're gonna have a really good year. I think it's just summing off that just how much the series and character of Doctor Who meant to him as well, and just how much he enjoyed it. Because I don't think he was just saying to Rose, Rose is gonna have a good year. It's more, I think, of more of a hidden meaning of the viewers, the team behind this series, which is yet unproven, and what it's gonna lead to. I don't know. It just shows like just how much this all meant to everyone. Not just Russell T Davies as a writer, not just David Tennant as an actor, but also the audience as well.
Yeah. Now, the regeneration scene itself, hit or miss?
I mean, that was like, it was so sad. Everything about it was just, from the acting of David Tennant to the choreography of the scene to the music. Everything about that scene was just spot on. The music makes a lot of things, and the music was great, and the framing of the Doctor and the emotion that David Tennant puts on through this, not just even for the words he utters, just the emotions on his face. You could see just what this meant to him. Like, he put in such a great performance, and then you were already there with the emotions just from everything beforehand. But when he then utters the words, "I don't want to go." Fucking hell, that is. Even when you rewatch that so many years later, that's still.
Yeah.
How can you not cry to that?
Oh
How
no,
can you
I
not?
agree with
How
you.
can it not hit you in the gut?
I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly. It was a beautiful send off to an amazing actor who brought a Doctor to life, which I think has become a generation's Doctor. You
Yeah.
know, he really did become the face of the show, and he still is. Even when I see Tennant on TV now, my face lights up because I love him as an actor anyway.
Yeah.
But it's always his time at the Doctor, which I think he's going to be remembered for.
Because he is
Because yeah,
he is Doctor Who. He is what propelled the series to the
yeah,
heights it reached.
yeah, definitely. Now, of course, in conclusion, MLC, these Doctor Who specials, in a final rounding off thought, do they live up to the hype which you had when you first saw them?
Yeah. I guess they did. Yeah. Just because how much I can remember them, how much of an impact they had on me. I guess in a way, I don't know. It's weird to look back and say and compare the hype to things because I guess being a first time viewer, I didn't really have much to compare it or hype it up against. Like when let's say like a new video game or a new movie, that's like a sequel or continuation of like everything that's come before. There's a lot of hype and expectation to meet. But when I watch these Doctor Who episodes, there wasn't much hype or comparison or expectation with them to begin with for me.
No.
And in my opinion, like they didn't really have a level of hyper expectation to meet or beat. But in my opinion, they set the bar.
No. They were great. That's my input.
Yeah.
They were great. They still are. Now, thanks for watching, guys. I really do hope you. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe in order to receive great and maybe even improved quality content in the future. Now, of course, MLC, thank you for joining us. It's been great hearing your thoughts on these. I hope you had a good time. If you didn't,
Yeah,
then
as always,
please
I
tell me.
always have a good time on Move Rewind.
Now, of course, the 10th Doctor was gone. It was the 1st of January 2000. It was a new decade with a new Doctor. Did they have what it takes to pull it off? Well, you're going to have to wait for my Series 5 review in order to hear my opinions on it. So I hope you really
Oh, we
enjoyed
got
watching
to
the
wait.
video. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. To
Oh.
wait. I know, it's shocking. So I will see you in another one. See ya.
Bye, everyone.
Have we stopped yet?
Yeah.